We are a river city, a bold city, the First Coast, a place to create and to belong. Here, the sun shines a little brighter, and so do the people. We share a love for our region, a pride for Jacks, and a passion for the beautiful game, dedicated to giving everyone a sporting chance. Together, we will elevate soccer and sport in our community by lifting every voice. We are Sporting Club Jacksonville. We are Sporting Jacks.
Hello and welcome into the Sporting Jacks Report. I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up, we take a closer look at some notable offseason moves made by USL Championship teams, plus what thousands of youth soccer players were doing in St. Johns County in Northeast Florida this past week. But let's start with the Champions League that has moved into the next stage of competition. This was the first year of a revamped format for the Champions League. They added 4 teams to the field and went from a group stage approach to a league stage approach. And on Wednesday, 8 teams were sent home, while 8 advanced to the knockout round, and 16 still have some work to do. Let's welcome in Mauricio Ruiz now. And Mal, I don't know what you thought about this new format. I found it tremendously entertaining. What did you think of the change?
Well, it was. So if you remember, the change was from 6 games in group play to 8 games in a round-robin kind of environment where you never really play the same team twice. Where in the previous stage, by game 4, 5, the results were pretty much determined because the top 2 out of each group would go through. So there's really no excitement to the games, to all of them from game 5, match day 5 and 6. It was a different case with this new format. By match day 7 and 8, remember 2 more matches were added. I mean, everybody, teams like Man City, Real Madrid, PSG, Sporting, they were potentially out of the first round of a Champions League environment. So definitely a lot of excitement, into going to the last game.
Yeah, it was confusing to get your brain around it until you saw it in action. Now, I think probably almost unanimously across the board, people think it's a great format. Let's take a look at the teams who qualified for the knockout round by finishing in the top 8. You've got the Premier League clubs there. Liverpool, top of the table, didn't lose till the last week, and by then it was already a done deal for them, basically. Arsenal and Aston Villa also both move on, as did Barcelona, who scored 28 goals in 8 games. That's the most of the competition so far. Also advancing, Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, and Lille. Most of the teams were very consistent of this group in the first stage. Of these 8 teams, Mal, which club impressed you the most?
Well, from a namesake standpoint, you got to look at Lille and Aston Villa making into that first 8. I think that was probably not expected, as you have some of the other juggernaut teams in there. But from an actual style of play and really dominance, Barcelona, as you mentioned, 28 goals for, 13 goals against. I mean, they have the best goals against differential. Pretty impressive what they've done. Hansi Flick come in there as a non-traditional Barcelona coach, adding a little bit of power, enthusiasm, and energy into what they do. They were really impressive in his first round.
I also think it bears noting Aston Villa, who found their way into the top 8 to get that automatic berth. We talked a lot about what they were going to do this year, how stretched thin they might be, not having quite the deep roster that some clubs like Liverpool or Arsenal might have. But hats off, Aston Villa put a lot of emphasis on the Champions League, and they've done well.
They really have. They've done extremely well, and they haven't dropped off that much in the Premier League. I mean, it's a congested Premier League to begin with, but they know if they can stay and survive for as long as possible in the Champions League, that's significant result in a return on their investment. So they've done well so far. They'll get that bye in the first round to wait to see what the knockout stage will look like. And I guarantee you, whoever they get to host in that first round, that stadium is going to be packed and rocking.
And of course, the benefit there is, as you mentioned, that home field advantage. All right, let's look at the matchups, or the teams anyway, that got through to the play-in stage. These are going to be 2-legged playoffs, and you've got some teams here that needed a result at the end to get in, like Man City, like PSG. There are some big clubs in here. You see Real Madrid on this list. AC Milan is on this list. Bayern Munich is on this list. So you've got some major teams, major clubs that had to work, and now they still have more work to do to get to the knockout round.
Right, and a little bit of like a March Madness environment that we're about to kind of go into. And I don't know, Cole, I don't know that you want to see Man City as a 22nd seed with something to prove right now. Real Madrid got in 11th place, Bayern Munich 12, even PSG last minute kind of got in at 15th. But Man City, until the last game, which they dominated, they played Stuttgart, they got in. But right now they're sitting 22nd place. That's not a matchup, and seeding does matter here. So the number 9, number 24, first and second, they'll start getting into a seeding kind of situation now, where Man City may not get the first round bye, but they're a team that you don't want to face.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the USL Championship. It was a big week of moves in the league as preseasons are getting underway. Among the big moves, Louisville City sending Elijah Winder to the LA Galaxy on the largest domestic transfer fee in USL Championship history. This is a big deal, Mal.
It's a huge deal, and you're going to recognize that name if you're in a USL, kind of US soccer kind of environment. Winder Elijah is Joshua Winder's older brother, and saying older brother kindly because Elijah is only 21 years old himself, and he's got a promising career. He's already played 99 games in the USL Championship and senior level football. So for him to make the transfer to Galaxy, still at a really young age, but as a pretty experienced pro at this point, and he's a dominant center midfield player. That box to box, he can cover ground. Pretty impressive. Louisville continues to do good deals, whether it's in Europe. His brother went for the largest international fee, and now, now Elijah goes in for the largest domestic fee. So a pretty good day at the Winder, household.
Yeah, find some more Winders if you're Lou City. See if there's any more back at the Winder plantation.
I think that's it. I think they stocked out.
That's it. All right, another big move by Lou City, by the way. They added Kevon Lambert, the Jamaican international. He comes via loan from Real Salt Lake of MLS, so replacing a departing player with a veteran player. And closer to home, Tampa Bay has brought back center back Robert Castellanos. He spent the last 2 seasons with Sporting KC, playing in 33 matches in Kansas City. And finally, last year's USL League One Player of the Year, Liam McKinnon, gains himself his own promotion to the championship after he signs with Orange County SC. And this is a player who scored a lot of goals and certainly stood out at the USL League One level. Now he'll move up another step.
Well, you're seeing this from the cause. So Liam is a Villanova All-American, great player. He played at Villanova. The USL Championship, and even the MLS level, is starting to become a little bit congested with international players. So the college standouts are going into the USL League One to prove themselves once again. They had to earn the right to prove themselves, and now they're getting to League One. And then if they do well there, and that's it's a great testing ground for them. And someone like Liam now deserves the opportunity to get one more step up into his career. So you're going to see that trend continue to happen more and more.
All right, there's sure to be some more big moves coming now in the USL Championship as the season kicks off on March the 8th. Now time for Mauricio's Corner. And this week, we're talking celebrities. Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney, and Wrexham. But more importantly, the conversation around promotion relegation. And Mal, certainly Wrexham isn't the only club to benefit from promotion, but it's a really good example of how the system can benefit a club.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're watching teams in a Premier League now that only 4 or 5 years ago were battling League One promotion, relegation. You got teams like Brentford and Bournemouth. They're all part of that. Leicester City, remember, they won the league, they went down. This is the most followed one because of the personalities attached to it and because it's on TV. It's also been a great educational piece for the American, regular sports fan or even some soccer fans that are not accustomed to promotion relegation because we don't have that here in the U.S. in our ecosystem. So it's a great opportunity for teams to get in at a lower level, for investors to get in at a lower level, and then have the opportunity to climb their team up. And will be interesting if they can get to the championship next year. As you mentioned, they're in 3rd place now in a really tough league. But we'll keep following that track and see where it goes.
Yeah, we've certainly seen a number of teams that have found their way up from lower divisions and getting up to the championship or the Premier League. So the conversation has to go to what could happen in the United States, Mauricio. Is there a future for promotion and relegation in the U.S.?
We all like to say that there is, and certainly I think there's an opportunity for. There are a lot of things that need to get figured out. I personally don't see that in the MLS environment, in the MLS system, because he has a little bit of that monopoly kind of mindset that NFL. Remember, there are a lot of NFL owners, there are also MLS owners. They don't want to give up that product, and I get that to a certain extent. It doesn't help the game, in my opinion. So where we might see that is in the USL setup. As we're mentioning, more League One teams are coming in. That's third tier of U.S. soccer pyramid, if you think about it. USL Championship. Now, there's a lot of disparity in how those teams are operating. The teams are operating at a high level may break off into a first division USL league, and then teams in between will kind of fall in line where they fit. In that environment, teams that have the ambition to go up and down, that's probably where we're going to see promotion relegation here in the U.S.
All right, Mal, more from you coming up in just a bit, so stay close. We'll have more as the show continues. Hey, come join Sporting Jacks at the Riverside Craft Beer Festival, Sunday, February 23rd, under the Fuller Warren Bridge. More than 100 local and national craft beers, food trucks, and a cornhole tournament, plus live music. The festival opens for general admission at 1 p.m. with VIP starting at noon. For tickets, go to riversidecraftbeerfestival.com. The festival benefits Community Peds Care and the Riverside Rotary Foundation and is presented by the Nevisor Foundation. Season tickets are now on sale for the USL Super League's debut in Jacksonville with Sporting Jacks in August. Here's a look at the seating map for Hodges Stadium. Tickets start at just $10 per game for students and go up to the premium and field seating. Hospitality is available as well. Join the movement and be a part of the first professional women's team in Jacksonville. Go to sportingjacks.com for more information. Still to come, Becky Burleigh joins us to talk about culture building on a new team. That's an important topic for a lot of teams in our area. That's next as Sporting Jacks and the Sporting Jacks Report rolls on. When the USL Super League kicks off the second half of the season, you can catch every game streaming on Peacock. Fort Lauderdale and Tampa Bay will play February 8th in the first game back from the break. Let's take a look at the standings now at this time during the winter break. And you'll notice that every team has played 14 matches except for Fort Lauderdale and Tampa Bay. They lost a game during the hurricane, so they will play that first game of the second half of the season to make that up. Then everybody will be caught up to 14. And every club will play 14 more games. The top 4 teams in the standings at the end of the season advance to the playoffs. Right now, Brooklyn with a very handy 6-point edge in the table in the USL Super League. We now welcome in Becky Burleigh, who joins us. Becky, the countdown is on to the start of Sporting Jacks, and talk a lot about setting the culture for a new team and a new club. You've done such a great job describing that and living that in your past. What are the real keys to setting culture for a first-year team?
Well, first and foremost, I think the biggest thing is having a clear vision of what your values are for the organization and being able to articulate those. So it's one thing if they live in your head, it's another thing to be able to actually define them so that people can have a clear view of what it is.
All right, that's good stuff. A couple of bits of USL Super League news. Fort Lauderdale United has closed a 7-figure investment deal with Future Sports Ventures, and Spokane Zephyr has added former Seattle Sounder Ozzie Alonso to the ownership group. What do these two stories tell you about where the USL Super League is and the USL Championship is right now?
One of the things it tells me is the trend that we're just seeing worldwide, which is an investment in women's sports. But the other thing, I think, just USL is an attractive venture. It's been around for a really long time. It has a proven track record. And the addition of the Super League, to me, is just a way to diversify that portfolio with these teams. And I'm excited about it. I just think it's just a sign of things to come.
We mentioned earlier that some player transfers are starting to happen now between USL Super League teams. Players who played in the first half going to a new team for the second half. Is this an indication of how tough it is to predict how well new players will mesh together?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, because it's one thing to acquire talent. It's another thing to get that talent to mesh well together. And sometimes you don't really know that until it's actually happened. And I think that's the value of having the split season. You get an opportunity to really evaluate that, not just a snapshot, but like really evaluate that and then make changes when necessary.
All right, finally, I want to give you a chance to sing the praises of Naomi Girma, who you have done. I don't think I'm stepping out here to say that she is your favorite player right now in the world. The U.S. Women's National Team center back, Emma Hayes, called her the best defender she'd ever seen. And now Emma Hayes' former club, Chelsea, has acquired her on the biggest transfer fee ever paid in women's soccer, $1.1 million from San Diego Wave. Give me an on the field and sort of business perspective on this move.
Well, the thing I love about Naomi Girma is that, she just does so many invisible things that you don't necessarily pay attention to. but it allows her to not be like the flashiest player because she's managing so many things in front of her before they ever happen. And I know that coaches see that, even sophisticated fans might see that, but the average viewer might not see that. But clearly, people around the world are taking notice when you have a $1 million plus transfer fee. I think everyone knows your value, and that value can't just be on the field. It's got to be in leadership. It's got to be in culture. And that's one of the things I really love about Naomi Girma is she is the total package.
All right, good stuff, Becky. We'll look forward to talking to you on radio on Tuesday. Hey, if you sign up for season tickets now for the USL Super League season, which gets underway in August in Jacksonville, you'll receive a limited edition inaugural season scarf. Be a part of the first pro women's team in Jacksonville history. Go to sportingjacks.com for more. Still to come, our youth soccer spotlight. Thousands of young soccer stars were in Northeast Florida last week for one of the biggest soccer tournaments in the area. How the event raised the level of local soccer and local business. That's next as the Sporting Jacks report continues. In the coming months, Sporting Jacks will be unveiling the inaugural kit, but you can already get official Sporting Jacks merchandise, from shirts and hats to sweatshirts and scarves. Head to sportingjacks.com/shop or hit that QR code on the screen to get your official club gear today. Time now for the Youth Soccer Spotlight, presented by the Bearded Pig Barbecue. And this week we look back on the Florida Elite Winter Invitational Tournament. It was a far-reaching tournament for U9 to U13 teams that not only brought a lot of soccer to the area, but a lot of economic impact as well. Last week in St. Johns County, in Palm Coast, and in Duval County, 288 teams converged on Northeast Florida, and the teams came from as far away as Maine and Boston. There were teams from Virginia and South Carolina, and as you can imagine, Florida as well represented. 163 teams here from the Sunshine State. 477 games were played over the course of 2 days, making a major impact on the soccer scene in Jacksonville and beyond.
It's great for the area, for our kids to play so many teams from other states, as far as Maine, Virginia, and beyond. So it's great for our kids to play other competition. But I'm sure for those teams coming in from the north, coming into this weather that we have today, it's great for them. So obviously exciting for them to get down here and probably get outside with all the snow they've had. But for our kids to play teams from different states, different parts of the country is a great benefit to the teams of all levels. But it's great for the area. It's putting St. John's and Northeast Florida, Duval on the map as far as, we have close to 300 teams coming here this weekend to compete at this event. The better the competition you can play, the higher the yardstick goes, the better it's going to make your players. Our club's we do very well. We have great results on a national level. We took 9 teams to the national championships this past year, so we obviously have teams, players of that caliber. But it's great for all the kids in our club because all the players of all levels get to play these different teams from different regions, different areas that they'd never see, and it makes each player, each team better. We use this as pre-season for the spring, but it's a developmental tool. Again, they'll get at least 3 games in this weekend, and in those 3 games, we'll look to improve in each match and take that into the upcoming spring season. We have major events in August that we're going to expand probably on an international level. I think this event we do mainly U9 to U14, and probably we'll look at next year. We may split it where we go boys tournament one weekend, girls the other, because there's so many teams coming in and it's hard with field space to cover that amount of competition, but it's also hard getting the referees too. So we're probably at a point where we need to split them.
Mal, I think that last point that Sean made is an important one here. With the growth of the game, there is a shortage of soccer fields in our area. The sport is just exploding and has over the past decade and a half. If Jacksonville is going to continue to grow the game, we need more places to do it.
We do, and we've seen a shortage in parks in general, even before COVID, but with the spike in population, and it's really bringing a soccer enthusiast population from the West Coast, from Latin America, from the Northeast, and they're all coming with soccer and they all want to play. And we already had a shortage to begin with. Now we got to solve the problem because the club soccer interest is growing. Bringing a pro sports team, pro soccer team to the area is going to grow even more. We got to find some solutions for it.
Yeah, and it's something that has been certainly part of what Sporting Jacks has had at the root of of everything since the formation of the club moving forward. You've got to find the land, you've got to find the places to do it, you've got to put it in the places where either A, there's already a huge number of people playing and kids who need more field to access, and the other side of that is to put it in places where there isn't any access or limited access to the game. So you've kind of have it on both sides here in terms of all parts of town really needing more soccer fields for the kids to play on.
Well, you hit a really good point. It's Sporting Jacks is a lot about equality and providing opportunities for the kids that can reach traditional club soccer, and because there's a cost associated with that. So the higher cost that club soccer demands, the less opportunity will go to a community that is growing but maybe not able to afford it. So how do we get into those communities? How do we do clinics and camps and outreach programs so we can bring soccer and accessibility to communities, not just the ones that can pay for club soccer, but a lot of times the ones that can't.
All right, be sure to join Mauricio, Becky, and me every Tuesday night for the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour. Our weekly radio show covers the entire soccer world, including Sporting Jacks and the USL. Tuesday nights at 6 on 1010 AM and on demand at 1010XL.com. Still to come, a game that could change the way the rest of the Premier League season plays out. That's next as the Sporting Jacks Report rolls on. You can catch the Sporting Jacks Report every Saturday at noon on NBC 12. Most weeks, that's immediately before Premier League soccer on NBC. You can also find us on demand on First Coast News Plus and on the Sporting Jacks YouTube channel. Tomorrow at 11:30, Arsenal hosts Manchester City. This is number 2 against number 4 in the table. If Arsenal's going to make a run at Liverpool, they need this one. They're 6 points behind the league leaders. As for Man City, they've gotten back to form, unbeaten in 6 Premier League fixtures. A City win would make things very interesting at the top of the table now. Everybody who is above Man City knows that if the champs are coming, they're going to be looking over their shoulders at them.
It's ironic how it's playing out, Cole, that in the Champions League and in Premier League, City is coming from behind, which is not something we've seen in the last several years. Last week, they took care of Chelsea. Now they got Arsenal in their sights with Arteta, Pep Guardiola kind of storyline behind it. I don't want to be Nottingham Forest and Arsenal with City right behind on full throttle right now.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned, they got a little extra momentum based on what they did in the Champions League. So I'm not sure this is City of old, the City of mid last year, or the treble or anything else, but it's still City. You see that crest. You got to be careful to see what's going on. Mal, thanks so much. We'll talk to you on the radio on Tuesday. And if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing in Sporting Jacks, follow us on social media. There are our social media handles on all of the major platforms. For Mauricio Ruiz and Becky Burleigh, thanks for watching the Sporting Jacks Report.